Hey everybody, welcome back to the Complete Game, podcast number 57. I am your host, Grandpa Kurt Schilling. He is your co-host and newly minted father of Nolan Donald Schilling. He is Gehrig Schilling. What's up, G? Congratulations.
Thank you, everybody who has sent out and reached out already. It's been a surreal process. You hear a lot of people say a lot of the same things, and it sounds corny after a while, but there's a reason that they all say the same things. It's because it's all true. So, yeah, he was born Saturday, August 23rd, and it's been nonstop ever since. If you're a parent, you know what I'm talking about. If you're not yet, you will one day. Yeah, I'm not gonna pretend like I kept up with a ton of baseball, but I did
Mama's
have
doing
some
good though,
stuff.
right? Mama's
Yeah,
doing
yeah, mom's
good.
mom's doing
Nolan's
well, obviously.
good.
Mom's
Very
doing well,
alert.
Nolan's good, baby's very healthy,
Got a
she's on the
scowl
mend.
already.
Yeah, yeah, he's got a mean mug to him already. We think he's gonna be a lefty. He had a slight injury to his right shoulder on the way out, so he's already got his first hockey injury, so he's a tough little guy already.
And I've actually been thinking about this. I actually think I want him to be a righty now because I want him to play other positions. And it's hard when you're a left-hander. You get stuck at first base and
I've had that thought as well, and I thought, I wouldn't mind him being exactly like me. You can swing lefty as long
right.
as you throw
Right,
righty.
right, right.
It'll be
Right.
easier
But
for me to teach as well,
I
but
played third base early in my life. I pitched a little bit, but I think that's where I started to develop most of my arm strength was the throw across the diamond and all the stuff that went with that. But I want him to be able to play shortstop and be athletic. I want him to have foot speed and all the things that go with that, so he can forecheck and be just a huge monstrous defenseman, or goaltend and suck up the goal, or be a big number 4 hitting right-handed flamethrower. But he's got 10 fingers, 10 toes, and he's healthy, so we're all good.
yeah, we're all very happy. But like I said, like you said, mom's on the mend. We're all very happy and healthy. He's been a dream too. So I've complained a little bit here and there. But compared to what some people go through, I'm very, very blessed for many, many reasons. So
And the game goes on. The
yeah,
game goes on. Now you can kind of, it gives you another look at the other side of maternity leave for players. I mean, it's a monumental thing. And you don't get days off. Nowadays they give that paternity leave thing, but I can't imagine ever taking that. Like I said, both you and Gabby, I pitched literally the day you were born. Excuse me, but I never was gone for days.
so yeah, we talked a lot about like was saying before. I didn't watch a lot of baseball, didn't keep up with a lot of baseball, so we're gonna keep it to some stuff that I did pay attention to. And I had some questions for you actually. We
Yep,
talked about a
yep.
few of them before the show, but one I didn't tell you about that I was gonna spring on you is how do you think that, because there's I think a little bit of a correlation, not like a direct change in your career from the time I was born on, but do you think it helps you compartmentalize that? Like, because I've talked with Coach Clark a lot. We're going to be putting out shows. We'll have a link to a hockey podcast if you want to get deep in the mind of a brilliant goalie coach who's had a lot of experience talking to some of the best goalies in the game, including
Working
Connor
with
Hellebuck.
Connor Hellebuck.
Yeah, so stay tuned for that if that interests you. But we've talked a lot about the mental side of being on the mound or being a golfer or being in the net, these positions that require you on a team sport especially, but to be an individual. Like, what does it take, and what does having a kid, because this is obviously a themed episode a little bit, what does it do to you? Because you were very good at least in my experience when I was old enough to understand what you were talking about, compartmentalize at the end of the night, like, hey, it's a game, like once I go home,
Right.
that's really what matters.
Well, we had an event very early on. You were 6 years old. Gabby was 4, and I had gotten traded to the D-backs, and I went down to Tucson for spring training. Ironically, you guys were always down in spring training with me, and we lived as a family in spring training or whatever, and we'd go down early. And then I get traded to Arizona, who has spring training in Tucson, which is 90 minutes away, and we're apart because you guys are living in Phoenix and I'm in Tucson. It didn't make sense to come down. Anyway, I show up at the first day of camp, and the first day before spring training started, I get a call from your mother, and she had just been diagnosed with cancer. And so for the 8 weeks of spring training, I drove home and to the park every day. I drove the 2 hours. I got up at 4 in the morning and drove to spring training. And then after the workout, I got in my car and drove 2 hours back to Phoenix because that's what I was supposed to do. And it really went a long way towards making me understand when I got in the car to go to the ballpark, I was a pitcher. And when I got to the ballpark and got in the car to come home, I was a father. And I could turn those on and off. And if I needed to be a pitcher at home and do things and work, study video or whatever, that was fine. But when I got home, I had a responsibility. And so it became easy in the sense that, one of the things people probably don't want to understand is because I'm a professional ball player doesn't mean my kids are healthier. My wife can't get cancer or any of those things still happen. And so you have to be able to delineate and focus because playing in the big leagues is incredibly hard. It took all of my mental faculties and focus and concentration and all the things that went with that. And I just figured out a way to do that. And I figured out a way to maintain that. And then obviously in the off season, the baseball season, towards the latter part of my career, we were in the playoffs a lot. So the baseball season didn't end until November. And, I'd take about a month off and I would start throwing in early December, which was about 8 weeks before I'd throw in. I had a very rigid, very strict routine and I would start throwing. So I'd get about a month. That's why when the season ended, we'd always go away for a couple weeks because once I got back, everything started again. And we recognized that was the price to pay for the gifts that the game gave us. And we were both okay with it. And, we had her parents, which was an enormous help. And I had an income that allowed us.
Still do. Shout out Pop. He's
right.
still very much a part of his namesake.
Yep. But we had her parents, and then on and off we would have, whether it be nannies or cooks or maids, things that we could afford to have to allow her. Because it's not a life where I go to the ballpark and I'll see you afterwards. The family was always you guys were always very involved. You went to the games, you traveled with me. Later in my career, you traveled with me a lot. And that ended up being, if you remember, we spent more time together when you went on the road with me than we did when I was home.
I was very, very lucky amongst, obviously how lucky all of your kids are to be allowed a certain level of access that some guys can't believe today, because around the same time, I think it was Dusty Baker's kid, the rules changed a lot.
Yeah.
But I was also sort of, for lack of a better term, grandfathered in before that, because you had started bringing me around before that and at a young age. So I learned how to act and when to be someone that was almost invisible in the room. But it afforded me a lot of very cool opportunities to sort of understand the inner
you remember
workings.
too, that Diamondbacks team, we were all similar age. All of us were having kids. The kids room was full of kids your age and up and down the spectrum. And then when we went to Boston, kind of the same thing, some older families, some older teams, but a lot of kids. And, when we got to Boston, you were 9, I think, but you got to go. I took you to the All-Star game in 2, 1, 97, my first one. I'll never forget that when you and I were out in the field, in the outfield in Cleveland. I mean, those are the memories that people talk about. What I remember most about the game, those are the things, and then Mom always had us taking family photos around baseball, which, now that you have kids, you realize those things are priceless. They'll never, but to get back to your question in a roundabout way, it once Mom got sick and then got healthy, that year was probably one of the best seasons of my career, because I did. And I don't know if you remember this, but game 1 of the St. Louis Cardinals series, I meet up with Matt Morris. That morning we woke up, you had to go to the hospital because you were having trouble breathing. And I left for the ballpark with that thing. Oh no, it was Garrison. No. It was you. It was you. You
Should
were
I
having
get Mom in here? She's here.
Yeah, no, it was.
She's at our apartment right now. Should I get her?
But
in
it was a challenge. I left for the ballpark and you were sick, and I didn't.
Yeah.
But I had to go.
I think I have a vague memory that it was me.
Yep. And we ended up beating them in game 1, 1-0.
I remember being in our front yard in Arizona and laying on the ground and being like, "Whoa, I can't really breathe."
Yeah. No, it was. But those, again, being an athlete doesn't take those things away out of your life, and you still have to go out and you still have to perform. And there are a lot of guys performing with things like that going on.
It doesn't take away the necessity that family instantly, like I've been talking about, it's all, like I said, it all makes sense now, all the things people talk about where it's compartmentalized. And that's why I wanted to ask you, if it helped with your mentality of compartmentalizing the fact that it's just a kid's game I'm really playing, something I grew up playing, that I love playing, that I'm very fucking good at. And now I get to like you said, I get all these afforded luxuries because I'm one of the best people, and when I'm obsessed and I'm at my best and I can put this here and be the best pitcher in the world and then go home and be a part of my family when I get there, and make those two things separate. Like being able to have that moment, I think
In
is
all honesty, I could tell you, I saw the game break up more families than I saw it bring together. And I'm not talking about baseball family. I'm talking about mothers-in-law, fathers-in-law, all the extra drama of the other stupid stuff. Sports and money accentuates those kind of problems, unfortunately. And so,
yeah, I
I can
mean,
remember a team.
it's not
I'll never
exclusive
forget.
to athletes and
No,
stuff. It's
no,
any form
it's
of
it's
money.
everywhere. Yep. But I got to tell you one quick story. I'll never forget. A teammate of mine got a birthday present from his mother. It was a tie and a receipt for $25,000 for raising him. A
Do you,
bill.
are we gonna name this player? Do I
No,
have to
I'm not
bleep
going to
it?
name him because it's
Okay.
embarrassing.
Okay.
But I can remember he got a tie, like a shitty looking tie, and an IOU for $25,000
Yeah.
for raising him. And I saw
That's fucked.
so much of that, but
Yeah.
totally off the beaten path. But yeah, you learn. And the only other sports I liken it to. It's why golfing was such a big deal for me for pitching, because you're alone mentally. You have to be very disciplined. You have to be strong. I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, I've gotten myself down in my lifetime down to under a 5 handicap, and they say going from a 5 to a 0 is 100,000 times harder than going from a 20 to a 5, and I totally agree with that. But you're on the course for 4 hours alone, and everything that happens on the course is 100% because of what you did. And that's a mental grind like pitching. The ball is going to do exactly what I make it do.
Like pitching
So yeah,
or goaltending or
yep,
tennis or any of those individual sports.
yep.
That's why I was
Or
talking
you're
about
alone
the
in your own
mentality
head.
part of it.
You're alone in your own head for playing outfield in the big leagues. How
Yeah.
boring is that? I mean,
Until it's not.
right.
But yeah, some of the other things from this week that, like I said, I obviously kept up with the Sox taking 3 or 4 from the Yankees. You talked about Wheeler Sunday night when I was
Yeah.
still at the hospital.
Yep.
Shout out
And
to
then
Wheeler
the
and his
news
family.
came out that he's 6 to 8 months, and
Yeah.
you know.
So, I mean, as someone who I can't really speak to his injuries so much, but I can speak as a member of someone's family who injuries are very public, and it's obviously a huge, huge bummer for him because he's a dog, a competitor, and he
Right.
wants to be a part of this stretch run. So, I shout out to him and his family. I hope
Yeah,
that
I
recovery
gotta tell
process
you,
is easy.
that's a much deeper thing than on the surface. I mean, I'm very confident we'll see Zach Wheeler be Zach Wheeler again, but there's a legitimate chance, and I'm sure it's going through his mind, he may never pitch again. Because this is a kind of a life thing. This isn't a baseball thing. I think he'll be fine. The recovery rates are through the roof and all the things that go with that, but that doesn't mean everything is going to work out. And so I'm praying that everything does work out. He's fine again because, I've told you before, he's the one guy in game today that if people have asked me, who in baseball today do you think is most like you? And I never had Zach Wheeler stuff, but that's the guy for me. He's an 8-inning guy every night, ace, 200 innings, take the ball, big game pitcher. He's somebody I love. He's also the guy I thought Aaron Nola was going to be too. I really thought Aaron Nola was going to take that next step, and hopefully he still can. But now with Zach out, you got Luzardo and Sanchez and Suarez, and Nola's going to have to step up if they're going to win.
Yep. In that same vein too, also like to play the other side, we're talking about injuries and obviously I was there for the bloody sock and all that. I don't know if it's a very vivid memory like it is for you, but you fell down the stairs during that whole period of time, and that's obviously probably not a very well known fact. But like that's a very serious thing where you're playing a game that injury is something you will never walk the same way again if you do something bad. And it's like you were my coach well after that. You were Gabby's coach well after. You're risking a lot so it's again,
It gets back to the guys you're playing with and your love of the sport. What would you do for those guys? And the 04 thing, people asked me about that, was I did exactly what I thought I had to do for the guys I cared so much about. And yeah, and it's funny because I've had a nightmarish week with my ankle. It's been very uncomfortable, and they always told me this would happen, but I didn't care. That was, it was worth it because, well, especially in Boston, like I was brought to Boston to be that guy in that moment against the Yankees, blah, 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 blah.
For
And then I just,
Boston type fans.
right. And I brought the Ford commercial with me and I told, everybody, can't think of anything greater than making 55,000 people from New York shut up. And I go out game one and 55,000 people are on their feet because I got my ass kicked. So, 6 days later, I get a chance. And, that was the game I was brought there to pitch. So, yeah, the pain and the discomfort and, my arm doesn't really work anymore, but it doesn't have to. I'm okay with that. The discomfort and all the stuff that goes with it.
It's a part of that compartmentalization thing we were just talking about that is I've heard you say at times in your career during interviews you're uncomfortable being called a hero because of your respect for military and emergency response and people that do things
It's
like
not
that. Where
appropriate.
I've heard, I think it's a police officer does this tactic where he has a coin that he puts in his pocket when he goes to work, and that's his cop life. So when he comes home, he puts that coin in a dish, and then he's a family man. That type of ability to compartmentalize and realize that, like, yes, this is my job. This is very serious, even though it's not saving lives or whatever.
No, but
it's risking your life to a certain degree. It's risking your health. It's risking time with your family and your ability to coach your kids and throw with them and stuff like that. Where you're not able to play baseball
$11 billion
right now
a year
anymore.
business, right? It's an 11, and the people in the ivory towers, the people who own the Red Sox don't care that I'm limping now or that I have pain or any of the things that go with that. They didn't care then. They just cared that I was on the field, and that's okay.
They didn't care about Rafael Devers, and that's why they dealt his ass. And they'll do it to Mookie Betts. It's whether you're Rafael Devers and there's rumors that you might be a problem, or Mookie Betts and you look like the franchise cornerstone for the next decade. They don't care about you or the personal relationship you have with guys on the team.
Some do. The good ones do.
Some do.
I played for some good ones. Jerry Colangelo was a good one. Bill Giles was a good one. He cared about you as a person. Jerry was very clear when I was in Arizona. I'd rather pay you less, but I don't have a problem paying you $13 million a year as long as you win a World Series.
There are good owners and bad owners in every sport, but would you say it's majority not good? That more of them do not care about you and more about their bottom line.
Most of them don't. Right.
I think that's fair.
We're assets. We're assets. And that's not a bad thing. I'm okay with that. We get compensated very well, but
you're a conservative. You understand how it works. I mean,
right. When they're done with us, they're done with us. What happened on my exit in Boston is something I've forgiven them long ago. I'll never forget them for it, but they did that to me and to my family. And that was a bridge too far, So yeah, lots going on in the game when you were away. Nolan comes in. I wanted to mention something real quick, An overarching thread for this podcast has been my disdain for pitching in the modern era, how it's broken. And I can't help but go down this. I need to go down this list and just read the headline. These are the headlines from a website.
I'm putting my mic aside. Go off.
Yep. There's a I've talked about this, the max effort pitching and the reasons it's so bad, blah, blah, blah. Let me just read to you guys. These are the top headlines of the day today. Brewers place all-star closer McGill on 15-day DL. White Sox outfielder Robert 10-day DL. Dodgers Freeman missed a game. Astros Carfini in concussion protocol. AL Cy Young contender Eovaldi done for 25. Massive news. O's move rookie Young to 60-day DL. He's done for 25. Cubs prospect Birdsell to undergo elbow surgery. This is not a one-off. This is mind-blowingly frequent. And just because pitching in the big leagues is broken, pitching in baseball is broken, to that point, we are now in the bottom of the 7th today, and the Texas Rangers are beating the Anaheim Angels, or the LA Angels, 20-3. And maybe this is just because I'm hypersensitive to it. You're seeing more of this and more of this and more of this. Pitching has declined. It's broken. And until some organization, I jokingly say this, hires me, because listen, this is not a one-step fix. This is a fix to everything involved with an organization, from how and who you scout to what you scout, to how and who you draft, to how and who you develop and why, and you do the things you do. There's going to come a time when a team is going to get back to old school, and I use old school in quotes because I know everybody hates hearing that term, but the fact of the matter is, it's far cheaper and far easier to win more games when you have a 5-man rotation with 5 guys throwing 200 to 240 innings than it is to have a 13-man staff where 3 starters, 2 openers, 11 relievers, and guys shuttling up and down. A lot of that is a byproduct of the money, the lack of coaching in the minor leagues. And I don't say it in the sense that there's not talented coaches. The point is they're not coaching. And I know that because I'm watching guys in college and in junior college and in high school who are arriving in the big leagues throwing the same exact way they did when they were 18 years old. Coaches are afraid to coach them. They're afraid they don't want to be the guy that breaks a guy, this and that. But this hunt for velocity is crushing pitching. And people talk about, well, batting averages are going down with the increase in velocity. They're not going down because of the increase in velocity. They're going down because of the change in approach to hitting. Now, I like sabermetrics. I do believe in analytics to some degree. Analytics can tell me if a guy's got a better spin rate on his curveball than another guy, which is great. But physically, you have to have the hands to throw the curveball to begin with. That's why you don't draft guys with small hands, because if I want to build a pitcher, if I want to develop a pitcher, I draft a kid who has big hands because I can show him how to throw a better breaking ball. When you draft a guy with small hands, his breaking ball is his breaking ball. You can't change that. You can't make it better. You can't teach it. And so there's so many things like that. But this max effort approach to pitching is sport-wide from the big leagues to little league. And all you have to do is watch a telecast. Every comment about every pitch is about how hard it was. To those that don't know this, the measuring parameters around velocity have changed in the last 20 years. It used to be that the ball velocity of a baseball and a pitch was measured on its way halfway to the plate, at the plate. Today it's measured out of the hand. So are these guys all
Before it's had any wind resistance or anything?
Well, it's just like hitting a golf ball. A golf ball comes off the club face at 180 miles an hour. It's not doing that when it gets there.
Starts to die.
Right.
That's immediately how. Right. That's how momentum works.
Right. And so you're seeing. I promise you, Clemens, Pedro, Kevin Brown, RJ. I think I would have gotten a bump, but those guys were today's 90.
What do you think is more exciting? If MLB comes out and announces that they're changing the way we use speed tracking and we're going to have guys throwing just as hard as ever, or don't say anything and holy shit, this guy Paul Skeens is throwing 101 or Aroldis Chapman is throwing 105.
Exactly
yeah,
but
exactly.
you've seen commentary. Well, Duran to Philadelphia. I told you that first night was just the epitome. They didn't comment one time about his command of his fastball in the strike zone. They talked about the velocity of every pitch. And I get it, right?
He's not even like a flamethrower by today's MLB standards.
But I get it. I get the allure, right? 100 miles an hour and, exit velocity and all the things. And like I said, I like analytics and I like sabermetrics, but I know that there's a comfortable middle ground where you marry the two, you can get perfection. And how many teams do you think, and I'm asking because I don't know, and I know you don't know either, but I'm asking fans to think about this. How many teams do you think measure their pitchers, prospects, the draft kits, measure their hand to the finger or to the pointing finger? These are the measurements that matter, because if I have a big enough hand, and I was a guy, I had a crappy breaking ball when I was an amateur player, but they could teach me how to throw one because my hands were big enough to grab and manipulate the baseball. That's why there's only, before you turn 18.
And I didn't get your massive hands, and I could throw it just because I had enough of.
But your second best pitch was always, you had a great changeup and you had good arm action for your changeup. And that's the thing that people talk about. These kids, I'm watching the Little League World Series, and there's no chance any of these kids' hands are big enough to grip a baseball firmly. So their breaking balls, a lot of them are gravity because they're not going fast enough, but also they're creating side spin or whatever, all the other stuff. The only two pitches, and you could pitch in the big leagues with the fastball and a changeup. Those are the two pitches that every kid should know before they hit 18. And once maybe you're a 15-year-old James Hendren who's 6'6" and weighs 265 pounds and has adult hands, I can work with that. But again, there's so much, and for you coaches asking me, what should I teach? Don't teach them any breaking balls. You teach them the changeup and the fastball. That's enough, because if they can get those two down, then the third pitch becomes extra.
The most important second pitch you ever need to teach your kid outside of fastball changeup before they're 18 is strike one.
Right.
Learn how to throw strike one and make it consistent. And if you're going to miss, make it a good miss. That should be the only lesson outside of fastball changeup.
And I was using the screen the other day. And, if you guys think about this as the strike zone, if
well, that's a good call.
Right. But think about this. Paul Skeens is throwing the ball 102 miles an hour, and he has control. He can throw strikes. But like I said the other day, when you see the catcher sitting up to catch the ball here, and he throws a ball at 101 up here and it gets a swing and a miss, everybody's oohing and awing, and I'm just saying, well, that's just stuff, pure stuff. And the one thing that every good pitching coach that's ever taught the pitching in any level ever is the best pitch in baseball has always been and will always be the fastball down and away. And it's baseball pitching.
You've already
is math.
Started teaching Nolan.
Right. Pitching is math, right? If you think about it, why is this the best pitch? Well, mathematically, if you look at the bat up here, the bat's up here, the farthest place from the strikes in the strike zone from the barrel of the bat is the down and away pitch. Now, this is a simplified thing, and I'm making it very simple, but the fact of the matter is, if that's all I throw, and I was a guy who got beat on that pitch sometimes because I lived out there. I rarely threw a ball in. I would throw a ball in to get a guy off. But here's the thing. If I'm setting up to throw this pitch out here, and I throw 10 of them, and 2 are here, 1 is here, 1 is here, 1 is here, 3 are here, 2 are here. That's control. That's strikes. Command is the ability. Right. I had the ability in my mind to throw this ball 7 to 8 times out of 10 right here. And if I missed out here. I missed a good miss, or I missed right here, a ball, whatever. I'd miss, obviously. Now, my big misses were always when I max effort. When I reached back to throw a ball with 2 strikes, I would give away a little control for an extra 4 to 5 miles an hour of velocity. The problem now is when you see these young pitchers like a Chase Dollander with the Rockies, he's giving away command. He doesn't have command. He has control. But the fact of the matter is he's giving away the ability to hit this spot right here. He's throwing 96 miles an hour. Now he's reaching back and he's throwing the ball here at 97. That doesn't do you any good. I did this at 93, 94, and then if I missed my spot, I was missing at 98. In the Maddox thing I said a couple months ago, Greg Maddox said, if you look at 2 cars driving down the freeway, can you tell which one's doing 96 and which one's doing 97? No. But you can tell which one's doing 90 and which one's doing 95. And that's just been lost. And like I said, that it starts with how you draft, who you look at, the things that you measure is important. Like I said, hand size to me is crucial and pivotal and enormously important. Also, arm length, right? How long are your arms? Because if you look, Pedro Martinez was 5'10". His hands were as big as Randy Johnson's.
One thing I learned about Pedro the other day that I didn't know. I think he was the first guy on the 3,000 strikeout list under 6 feet. Does that
I
sound
didn't
right?
know that.
Yeah,
Probably, yeah.
Right. Someone feel free to fact check on me. I'll look at it after to make sure I'm right. But I heard that the other day and was like, holy shit.
Pedro had 3 wipeout pitches. His fastball was a wipeout pitch. His breaking ball was a wipeout pitch, and so was his changeup. But his hand, if you look at any pictures of him, his hands were down to his mid-thigh when he had his arms to his side. He had monstrous hands. But again, those little things, I don't know that that's ever been an emphasis on drafting, but I think it's something very important. It should be preached upon. But there's a culmination of all those things coming together to get what we're seeing, which is the love of velocity, or velo, which I hate that effing word. It's velocity.
What, velo?
It's not velo. That's so stupid.
It's my
It's
velo.
lazy.
Stop.
But all of those things are coming together to create an enormous influx of injuries. That's why you're seeing multiple. I mean, how many kids are coming out of high school with Tommy John? It's mind-boggling to me. But it's about velocity. And the fact of the matter is, scouting a pitcher has never, ever been, it's always been the same. I'm looking for a pitcher first. That's why Greg Maddox wasn't, who's the kid that went from Tennessee this year?
Well, there's a reason he was called the professor.
Right.
He was.
But in high school, and he says until he was confident that he was with the Cubs in the big leagues, that was when he started to dial his fastball velocity back and started to emphasize command inside the strike zone. and why he won 5,000 games. And he was probably, for my money, when he pitched, the greatest pitcher in the history of baseball.
On any given 162 game, yeah, just
Right.
a guy who prepared meticulously for every
Yep.
single pitch.
And I learned, it's a guy I learned from. And so, I want to get back to the day when the starting pitchers look at innings pitched as their most important statistic.
I would say for me, and obviously I didn't play anywhere crazy, but when I started to take baseball and my mechanics more seriously, I obviously modeled my actual physical mechanics after you, but the mentality and not trying to throw, like I was one of the only kids at my college not trying to throw 90. That was part of my mentality, and that was all Greg Maddux. What I thought about was changeup, fastball,
Yep.
good mix, all that type of stuff.
People say that velocity is the hardest thing to hit. It's not. Movement is the hardest thing to hit. It's harder to hit guys that throw harder. That's just simple science, right? You have less time to react. But everybody in the big leagues can hit a fastball. If you can't give them something else, you're not going to have sustained success. And if you don't have fastball command, you won't have a long career. Or a good one.
I had a bunch of stuff that I wanted to get to and put us together tonight. But we've had a pretty pitching-centric episode, so I kind of want to focus in on this one point.
Okay.
I want to hit one of these points before because we've talked about a lot of pitching things, and you mentioned this, and I was curious to hear the answer. So the Yankees hit 4 home runs in the 3rd inning the other day, 9-run 4th inning. Judge, Bellinger, McMahon, Ben Rice versus the Nats. We talked about Max Fried going through a little bit of a struggle period when he was an early AL Cy Young candidate. He went 7 innings, gave up 4 hits, 1 earned run, had 2 walks, 6 Ks. At the time, he had thrown 3 innings and had 2 strikeouts. When a long inning happens, this one was 41 minutes, this half inning, where they hit 4 home runs. Talk about a little bit of what, A, learning how to deal with that was, and B, what a luxury / double-edged sword that can be.
Great question. Something you don't understand. It's not something you recognize in the minor leagues because it doesn't really happen enough. But in the big leagues, the first time it happens, you generally get snake bit because you go back out there and it takes you a hitter or two to get back into it. And so you learn things. Like for me, early in my career, I was on a lot of bad teams. And so we didn't have a lot of those, but it was something I had to learn how to do. Generally, in a simple way, it's why I wore sleeves all the time and why I always had a jacket on the bench, because I wanted to stay warm. And, I would never, well, in the National League, it was different, right? Because I had to hit. So those 41-minute innings, sometimes I hit.
And people that don't have the full context of that picture, they're just picturing you at Veterans Stadium in a jacket. You also played in the National League in Arizona.
Right.
And you wore a jacket there pretty frequently. I remember that.
But in a 41-minute inning, I'm hitting as a pitcher. So I have a chance to keep my blood flowing, moving around, and all the things going. Nowadays,
I've seen you in a jacket in those scenarios. I don't know how long the inning was, but I've seen you in a jacket in Bank One Ballpark just to put some emphasis on your point to how often you did that. It wasn't just like when it was cold.
I never sat because I'm the one guy that and players will tell you the worst weather to play in is cold, windy, dry weather. I'm the one guy that never was bothered by the environment of which I was playing in because I was always warm. I was always moving. I mean, and even on the hot days in the vet when it was 155 to 165 on the turf, I was on the dirt. The dirt was like 120.
Thank God.
And so, oh my God, yeah, but those were things as I got older. I'll give you an example. When I probably at the end of the 92 season and then going into 93, I was not very good in day games because of my sleep schedule. But I completely changed my routine for day games. And for day game, like if we were playing in, I don't know, Minnesota, and we were going to go down to play in Florida, my next start, I would start hydrating on the Wednesday before the game, if it was a Saturday or Sunday game, because I knew it was going to be 95 degrees with 95% humidity, and I was going to sweat my balls off. Because on a game,
if you're traveling to Minnesota, Gabby probably went with you, and you're
right. But the thing was, I knew that in the average when I started playing, I would drop between 10 and 17 pounds on a day game. And so what I wanted to do, and let me just tell you something. I had this, I had great trainers, and I would literally start loading up hydrating 72 hours before the start, I would feel like Austin Powers, the bad guy.
Yeah, Dr. Evil.
Right. I would feel that big. And then once I got to the ballpark and I started warming up, it would all go away. I would I would be hydrated. I would never had a cramp a day in my life in the big leagues ever. And I was always but those were the minutia things. Those were the things that I think separated me from everybody else. In whether it did or not, it didn't matter. In my head, it did, because I was more prepared to play that game that day. I had drank everything. I'd done everything I needed to do. And so that hot game, the other guy was going to be at a disadvantage.
Were you talking? Sorry, this might be mean, but I have to clarify. Were you talking about? I know you did the Mr. Evil thing, but there is also Fat Bastard that's like
Fat Bastard too.
That's who you're talking about.
That's what. Yeah, that's what I felt
about.
like. Yeah.
I didn't mean to say that. That sounds mean.
But that's true. But again, I had to learn how to do that, like everything else. And these, Gehrig, when I talk about young pitchers and they say, oh, he's close to being big league ready, these are the things that they can't have any concept of, because these are so far down the totem pole underneath throwing first pitch strikes and repeatable mechanics and holding runners and working ahead, all those hundreds of thousands of things that you learn. You're supposed to learn a lot of this in the minor leagues. And they're not learning the fundamentals in the minor leagues, much less the detailed stuff, which is doing a disservice to them, a disservice to the game, and a disservice to pitching. So, yeah, it's something you learn. It's something that Max is obviously playing in Atlanta on some good teams learned, but you learn what works for you. There's no one method. There's no one thing. You just need to make sure that you're warm, because the guarantee win is when you have that 41-minute inning, score 7 runs, and you go out and get 3 outs in a matter of 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And then your hitters are back on the bench going, dude, this is awesome.
Did you ever throw in a scenario like that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Rare. It was very rare.
Like light toss or full?
Yeah, just play and catch.
Okay.
In Boston, we had the bullpen right behind the dugout. In Arizona, we had the bullpen inside. When I was in Philadelphia, I couldn't go down to the bullpen. But for the most part, Philly was warm. You know, it was warm there, so that was never really much of an issue.
At the vet in the summer?
Yeah.
You don't say. If you haven't done your due diligence on the vet, I didn't know some of this stuff until we started doing the show that I've gone back and researched. It's fucking insane, to be honest with you. And if anything ever happens to you, I want you to know I'll take up the cause for those who have gone before you. You want to play a game?
Let's go.
All right, let's play a game. This is Put Us Together. We have a gentleman at home.
Now, is it always going to be 2 athletes?
No.
Okay. This is 2 famous people.
It is 2 people, celebrities, people of note, maybe people famous from history.
And the first guy's last name is the second guy's first name.
Their names run together.
Right. Or girl, whatever.
So, for example, we've done James Madison Bumgarner. James Madison, famous historical figure.
Shaquille O'Neal Cruz.
2 athletes, 1 historical figure, an athlete. So this week, what it is an actor and a former and a professional athlete. It's a baseball player. It'll become obvious right away. So I can say baseball player. And yeah, this game's called Put Us Together. This one comes from Phil Pomerantz, who has been great and has given me a lot of great suggestions. So shout out, Phil.
Thanks, Doc.
First clue is I am an original member of the famous late night comedy show SNL, where I won 2 Emmys as a writer and a Golden Globe for my acting on the show. The baseball player. I played 16 MLB seasons for 2 MLB teams, both in the National League, and am MLB's ambassador to Europe. Do you need to hear him again? I kind of stumbled through him. Sorry, guys. I'm going on like 2 hours of sleep.
Oh, my God. I think I got it. Chevy Chase Utley.
There you go.
Yes.
What gave it away for Chase Utley?
Nothing gave it away, but I for some reason remember something about Chase Utley doing work in Europe for MLB.
Okay.
But I also was going through this. I know Doc, and I was going through the 70s cast. I was like, can't be John Belushi, can't be Gilda Radner. Chevy Chase. Chase could be somebody's first name. Then I started trying to think of Chases. Yep. Cool. All
Yeah,
right.
so Chase Utley, I wanted to read it as my last clue for him was I've appeared in Always Sunny in Philadelphia several times as myself, as Mac's dream partner to have a
I
catchphrase.
would
That
have
was
nailed that. Yeah,
I was gonna
I
say
would have
that's supposed
crushed
to be
it.
the obvious one, and then
Yep,
Chevy
yep, yep,
Chase's.
yep.
I don't know if you can see it on the camera. My clue for Chevy Chase's was just shitters full. That was gonna be the last one. So if you can't tell, it's a cult classic in our house.
Well, hey, congratulations again, bub. I'm very
Thank you.
happy and very proud of you. I'm so happy Dan's doing good. Nolan's a stud, and I cannot wait. I mean, look at dude. Instead of my 101st Airborne and all my other cool hats, this is fine. I'm good with that.
Me too. I mean, the amount
Hey
of
guys,
cool
hit like,
memorabilia I have.
subscribe. We're growing and really enjoying doing this. Sorry we missed, but we won't miss anymore. We're pretty consistent. We will be.
Barring future children, I will
Right.
not be missing
Well,
another
not barring.
episode.
There'll be more in the future, and we'll
I'm
figure it
saying
out.
we will not miss an episode unless something on the level of childbirth is upon us. So thank you guys.
Hit subscribe, spread the word. We're gonna keep growing. Gehrig, and we'll give people heads up. We're gonna start doing
some live
stream. We'll do it live so we can get people in to ask questions.
Fuck it,
whatnot.
we'll do it live. What's that guy's name?
Yep. Oh my God.
The anchor.
Yep.
People know what I'm
Bill
talking
O'Reilly.
about. Bill O'Reilly.
Yep.
Fuck it, we'll do it live. Fuck it.
All right. Kiss Nolan. Kiss D for me. I'll talk to you in a couple days, buddy. I love you.
All right, love you too. Talk to you guys.